Welcome to Use the Fours, a Smash Up podcast. I'm AndIQuote, and today we will be concluding our discussion of the C tier in our tier list videos. This is part 3. If you're looking for part 2, I will include a link in the video description below. Today, I'm once again joined by Sonus as we discuss the remaining 4 factions in C tier.
Well, number 96 is the Cowboys, and Sonus, I think you're probably the biggest Smash Up Cowboys fan that I know. So I'll let you talk about Cowboys.
Yeah, I have always wanted to like Cowboys more, and a lot of my experience was in 3-player, and a big problem before Picos Bill was just like, oh, I bet you this counters this other combo, but they can just cancel out the duel, and then I get nothing. And so they really went downhill. Picos Bill, even though he's not especially exciting, at least not the ongoing, there are some, being able to guarantee what you want to do really boosted them for me. And so I started experimenting more with them, especially in 2-player, and it started showing me some things like Gunfighter is, an on-play, play an extra action, destroy a minion essentially, just at a minimum, because you probably know you're going to win this duel, now that Picos Bill is out. So you get that at a minimum, an extra action and destroy a minion, but you're going to get more than that. And I've just found a lot of big plays from Gunfighter, and then of course Deputy is amazing, but everyone already knows that.
Right. Yeah, Deputy, one of the best 2-power minions in the game, as I have listed in the column here. Because it's just, you want free 2-power, you have it. You can play it during your turn, you can play it during a duel. It's just a free power guarantee. And that's just silly, really. But, yeah. I mean, Gunfighter, Cowboys pre-Pecos Bill, I think were an awakening for a lot of people as far as realizing how many other factions have ways to not be where you want them to be when you want them to be there. Any movement card, whether it moves Gunfighter off the base or whether it moves the other dueling minion off the base. A destruction card, Seeing Stars, well, goodbye Gunfighter.
Yeah, movement and returning, those were big. All of a sudden every faction seemed to have a movement card or a return to hand card. Where'd all these come from?
Yeah, or flat protection,
Yeah.
And that's the one thing Pecos Bill still doesn't block is protection. You're playing against Avengers, they throw out Cap's shield. Well, most of your dueling actions are now useless.
At least the duel doesn't end from protection. There's at least that.
Right.
Maybe one underappreciated thing, maybe it's not real, but it feels like it might be with Picos Bill, is Titan clashing, because you can play it even before you have more power than them. And then when the duel is over, if you all of a sudden have more, kick off a Titan, which nowadays, good Titan clashers is boosted factions on the 2
Absolutely. Pecos Bill is unique. We've already seen Spirit of the Forest that just bypasses clashes of Titans entirely by moving to a different base when it loses. But Pecos Bill defers the clash until after you have finished a duel, which I've got here, bullet point number 2 in the strengths column. Sheriff and Pecos Bill in particular can allow for some wild before scoring swings. Oh, yeah. Sheriff triggers a duel. You play Pecos Bill there, you knock off whatever Titan was on there before, and that sometimes is enough to just swing the base in your favor already, if the Titan had power. And on top of that, you've got Sheriff, who can destroy a minion. It's led to some crazy swings in my games. And yeah, I mean, as you already alluded to with Gunfighter, duels are a way for them to get extra actions.
Yeah.
And that's where we get into some of the weaknesses, though, on the other hand. So much of the faction is oriented around dueling. Engaging in this one-off mechanic that 2 other factions have, one of which is just world champs with their own copy of Sheriff. The other is Samurai, which has 2 dueling cards. But Cowboys went all in on dueling. And when it works, it's great. When it doesn't work, they're just shooting themselves, essentially.
I think Cowboys really highlighted a problem that maybe early on the community didn't quite recognize, which was you destroy something, but wait, now I can't score the base either. And then they just come back and overtake it. Cowboys tried to make up for that with oh, well, you win this duel, so now you get to play an extra minion, or you get +4 power. But a lot of times it just wasn't enough to offset everything, and so they're waiting too often.
Right. Right. So, I mean, dinosaurs, for example, the closest example I can think of, if they want to break a base, they can drop like a War Raptor in augmentation, and that by itself is 7 power. And if there's other War Raptors on the base, that number goes up. If Cowboys want to drop, 7 power on a base, they play Gunfighter. They play Quick Draw during the duel because it only gives +4 power during a duel. And then if they destroy the opposing minion, well, there may be a power loss now, and they have to add even more power to make up for it. So much of high-level Smash-Up is using as much of your opponent's power against them as you can, and Cowboys pick that apart.
Yeah, it's huge in 2-player. But I think this leads into the partners a little bit. So a lot of Dinosaurs isn't listed there, but I think it's my all-time favorite combo with Cowboys at the moment. But a lot of these factions, Astronauts, Disco Dancers, these factions that are all about just providing power boosts often lack control, and Cowboys bring that in spades but really appreciate the extra power. So take Astronauts, for example. If I play Gunfighter and then give him Quick Draw, I've now added 7. I still have my action play left. I can use the 4s to do another 4. I've just done an 11 drop. And that's something Dinosaurs can do. You can do Quick Draw with Gunfighter. He's a 7, then Rampage as your next action for a nice 14 just out of nowhere. So, and then if you have the Dinosaur Titan now, could be another 2 power because the Dinosaur Titan will trigger twice from playing cards like Quick Draw. So, and then you could throw a Deputy in there before the Rampage. So it's like Dinosaur Cowboys can go crazy.
Yeah, I think Fort Titanosaurus can only trigger like once a turn.
Oh, for sure. Each of the duels, you can get an extra 2 power out of it, possibly.
Oh, I see, yes. Yeah, Ghosts are on here and the Lion King are on here, mainly because of their ability to recur deputies.
Yeah.
And of course, both of these factions also enjoy opportunities to play extra actions. I mean, Ghost, you can empty your hand real fast when you duel everything. Drop 4 deputies, well, that's 4 cards out of your hand now, and all of a sudden you're in Ghost mode. You can do some crazy things there. Magical Girls are on here. Again, just because of the ease of getting deputies back into your hand. Cowboys provide extra actions and some extra minion plays. And Pecos Bill doesn't Titan trade well, which is basically when you've got 2 Titans, one per faction that you're using in a deck. Being able to Titan trade well is important because, one Titan can tag out and the other can tag in and they don't get in each other's way. Walking Castle is not hugely important of a Titan, even to Magical Girls, so Pecos Bill can kind of lead the charge there. But when you need it, Walking Castle is there to protect your minions from destruction. And then Sharks are on the list as well because Cowboys destroy a lot of things. Sharks love reacting to destruction.
Almost feels like 4 more deputies because you often will use deputy in a turn you dueled. But in a turn you dueled, you probably destroyed something, so you could use Mako instead of deputy or both. So it's real nice.
Right, and then you've got Helicoprion, who can put deputies back into your deck. Again, the deputy recursion is something I've highlighted here, and I do think it's important, and I wish I'd put Dinosaurs on this list as well, because the raw power aspect is something Cowboys definitely appreciate. And we haven't even mentioned Stagecoach, which is their action, kind of like truckers that can just move cards. So if you have a Titan or a buried card that normally can't move themselves, Stagecoach can reposition, and that's important too. There's some different approaches you can take when considering partners for them. As far as counters go, I put Cyborg Apes and Kree on here just kind of as examples of factions that love to play actions out of sequence on someone else's turn. Cyborg Apes, you try to duel, say, I don't know, Baboom or something, and all of a sudden they're just loading up their minion with lots of modifiers that not only boost their power, which makes it harder for you to win the duel, but also they can turn around and Juiced Up Flying Monkey, they have scored 2 bases in a turn, and you gave them the opportunity to add fuel to that fire. Kree are on here for similar reasons. They've got they can play several actions on your turn if you start a duel with them. That all boost their power. And sometimes, worst case scenario, you start a duel with Kree. Kree end up breaking the base on your turn and scoring the base on your turn. And then they get their own turn to regroup.
Yeah, plus the Kree minions that you might duel, they're not going to be that sad that you destroyed their Ronin, but they might not have played one, or their 2 power minions, so...
Yes, it's Kree Sentry, yeah. Kree Sentry, which also gains power when you play actions. So, and ninjas are on this list, partly because, again, destruction hurts. Cowboys don't like having their minions outright blown up, especially during a duel. But also, Cowboys can't duel minions if there are no minions on the base to duel. Ninjas are perfectly content to let Cowboys do all the work, breaking a base before they swoop in and actually start playing their minions. Sheriff can contest this a little bit, but even then, ninjas are well equipped to handle starting a duel. They can kill you immediately.
If the turn order's right, if they're the ones scoring a base, which might only be ninjas, that is, once a game, they could overcome a sheriff, like a planted sheriff, by going first with just destroying it.
Yeah. Ninja Master and Assassination can still kill
poison's
sheriff.
a big deal, too.
Okay. Number 95 is the Mounties. And if Ludicrousness were here, he would be sad. But he's not here, so let's talk about them. Tell me about Mounties.
Yeah, so Mounties, they actually have some really good cards, but 2-player has this thing where most games you need to solo a base. Sometimes 2 to be able to win, or sometimes even have to either come back or to just finish the game. And unfortunately, Mounties need other players on bases. So to get like a lot of their abilities, so their solo potential is so much lower that where in 2-player where it matters so much, and where the opponent can just withhold minions till they're ready or put them somewhere you won't want to move your minions to, Mounties start to have their game plan used against them, which is unfortunate because they have so many interesting and good cards otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, on average, the Mountie cards, just reading them, they're all very good. You've got Dudley, who's the 2-power minion, and he can move, like talent move. Whenever you so choose, you can plant him on a base and then move him on a later turn, with the constraint that he can only move to a base where another player has a minion. Or Canuck, a 3-power minion that now, post-errata, gains plus 2 power. You know, a 3 that becomes a 5, that's a pretty big deal. That's a new Weed Eater right there. Also, only if another player has a minion on the base. Northern Mover is... They're 4-power. They're not quite leader minion, I should say, because their boss minion, Mountie Major, is also 4-power. But Northern Mover is who I would consider the true boss of the faction, just because her talent isn't constrained by other players' minions. You can move a minion, or you can give it plus 1 power. And then Mountie Major scales in strength to your opponent's minions. And they've got HQ, which is one of the best movement-based modifiers in the game, because it gives all minions on the base plus 1 power, and then you can move a minion to or from that base as well. They've got Power Poutine, which is basically plus 4 power if you've got 2 minions there. They're very resource efficient. They win bases very cleanly, that without a whole lot of card expenditure. They're so reliant on another player being there to be able to do anything. It's painful. They almost can't solo a base by themselves. If you can solo a base with Mounties, you've done some last minute shenanigans with a partner, more likely than not, as the base is scoring. And then on that note, almost all of their actions are in service of breaking a base. They're all power boosts, or they're all, everything except for HQ and maybe Bring 'em In are all some kind of power or movement, or just, Battle Moose, which is, it's protection, but it doesn't do anything else.
Matchup dependent.
Yeah, which is useless against, certain matchups. Mountie Major, like I said, he's underwhelming. He's what we would call pre-nerfed. He was made 4 power with the expectation that he could reach some pretty high numbers, but in practice, again, on average, when you're breaking a base and you've only got 3 minions there, the highest power he's getting is maybe 7. And that's if your opponent is careless enough to leave 3 minions on the same base. When
that is rough to get to.
Yeah, and they have no draw, which, I mean, that's a fair weakness. Not every faction has to have draw, but you don't always want a handful of cards that just break a base.
They have no draw or really any extra plays, which I know is intentional. One thing they do have in place of that, but it's very setup play oriented, is just tons of talents. So that means maybe the turn you play the card, you're not doing a lot, but the next turn you can use a talent to move around. That's pseudo like playing a card, because there's cards that move minions around it. So when you can just do all that with a talent, it acts like a speed up, but it makes it hard for them to do stuff in one turn a lot with multiple cards, because they're not playing extra cards. Besides A, which surprisingly 1 extra power has scored so many bases, so A is very good.
A, EH question mark. For those of you who are not Canadian. Yeah, it's their free extra action. Their one free extra action that they have that you play anytime after the first time you've played, or your first action in a turn. You play it, you get 1 extra power, and it goes back to your hand, and you can do it again, and it's great. As far as partners go, they like control-heavy partners, I've found in a lot of cases, or partners that give them extra movement. Mermaids and Tornadoes are good examples of this, because both of those factions can move themselves and also move other players' minions, so you can position people exactly where you want them to be.
And they give you the playback a lot, Mermaids do, when they do that. Doesn't take your whole action play.
Yes, Mermaids have all sorts of dangling extra action plays for arbitrary reasons on so many of their actions.
They're not listed here, but it's
uh,
related. So Pearl, I'm just theory crafting it, but mermaids have ultimate song to force out a minion so that now Mounties have a base to move to or something. Pearl also has 2 copies of Gemma all night long to force out opponents' 2-power minions. So I'm just theory crafting here. Maybe that gives Mounties the ability to force out some scores where the opponent tried to hold back.
Yeah. Making your opponent play minions so that you can then capitalize on your Mountie abilities makes perfect sense to me. Mermaids do that. Like Sonus said, Pearl does that. Orcs are on here. I've not tried this myself, but Normalium, if that's how you pronounce his name, apologies. I probably butchered it. But he really liked Mounties and Orcs since they've been reworked. Because again, you've got lots of control options here. Orcs really appreciate Mounties' surplus of power boosting options. You can actually afford to maybe overextend yourself on a base.
I think this is what you would call, I have never played it, but just thinking about it, like a high value per card combo, because neither of them are really playing extra cards, but each card is good.
Yes. Polynesian Voyagers are on here because they also have some weird constrained movement options, and Mounties complement that very well. Polynesians want to move where they don't have any minions, and Mounties want to move where your opponent has minions, so between the two of them, you can actually accomplish quite a lot. And because Polynesians add more bases to the game, you can spread out even more and not necessarily have your power constantly used against you. Steampunks and Ultimates are on here because they do a lot of the same things as Mounties. They've got lots of movement options. Steampunks have Mechanic and Scrap Diving to get things like HQ back, which is great. Just some extra versatility there. As far as counters go, what we call 0 to break. That basically just means the base was at 0, and then your opponent played a bunch of cards, and now the base is broken. If your opponent can wipe out a base in a single turn, Mounties can't really do anything about that at all. No way to contest it, and leaves you with even less resources for Mounties to take advantage of. Polynesian Voyagers, again, on the list because of Moai. They block all the Mountie movement.
Such a good lead-off minion in the matchup.
Yes, and then Bear Cavalry for similar reasons. They won't block the movement necessarily, but if you've got a Cub Scout that gets high-powered enough, it just eats whatever Dudley moves over to the base. And all of a sudden you're very reliant on Battle Moose to stay alive. Battle Moose for the Russian Bears.
That visual is pretty cool.
Yeah, Canadian Moose versus the Russian Bear Cavalry. Makes sense to me. Well, number 94 is the World Champs. And just looking at them, I think people would probably be surprised by this because, spoilers, All-Stars, the first one of these kinds of factions, quite a bit higher on the list. But World Champs are down here. What's your opinion on World Champs, Sonus?
World Champs they're interesting, but it feels like their strength is also their weakness. So they have a lot of good cards for adding power, but that's kind of also all they have. So their versatility is like near 0. It's either you need this card that gives power right now or you don't. And so if you can handle that, it works out. If you can't, it gets very inconsistent for them.
Yeah, it's a reflavoring of the Mounties issue that we just talked about. So many of their actions are in service of breaking a base that if you don't need that right now, you're kind of up a creek because they don't do a whole lot else. So some of their strong points here, they've got Aramis and they've got Stoneford, who are unique as far as 4-power minions go because in their original factions, they are above par for what a 4-power minion's ability typically is. As far as actions go, they've got Fastest Lightning, High Speed Chase, which we've already talked about today, both of those, as well as Kaiju Conflict for extra action plays. They've got Mouse, Bird, and Sausage, and the recently reworked It's Blitzen Time from Mega Troopers that approximate having 2 augmentations like dinosaurs do. So there's some pretty significant drops they can make when they line their cards up correctly, but as you see here over in the weaknesses column, they have 20 unique cards. That's aside from the aforementioned Smash Up All-Stars, that's not common at all in Smash Up. Aside from 8 of your actions, all of your cards usually have more than one copy, which allows for a lot more consistency and assuredness in what you're going to draw and be able to play. With World Champs, it's kind of a roll of the dice. And, 20 unique cards. They don't have a lot of opportunities to play extra minions and extra actions. You got Aramis, who can only play extra actions on himself. You got Kaiju Conflict, and in certain cases you have Sheriff, who only plays extra actions before a base scores. But then you have cards like Rainbow Girl and Calicoin, And Calicoin's just not good in general, but Rainbow Girl especially wants lots of minions on the base that she's played on, and World Champs can't do that. They don't have a copy of Ghostly Arrival like All-Stars do.
Yeah, it says there the consistency's, totally thrown off, and that's so true because it's just, I need Diva right now, and I got Shield Maiden, and then Shield Maiden missed. So that's another thing, is even some of those 20 unit cards you probably aren't that excited to draw or play, which just messes with that whole system they have.
Right, and yeah, for those of you keeping track, you'll notice a lot of the cards we're mentioning are already cards that we've already talked about from other factions in C tier, lower than this, so it's, they're not necessarily pulling from the greatest of pools.
If you want jumping into, this is towards partners anyway, but the way I have liked using them is picking one of the partners that has the same card this faction has, especially when it's a strong card, a card that has no business having another copy. Like pair them with Cowboys, you have 2 Sheriffs, 2 Aramis, 2 Stonefords is pretty crazy. But Kaiju Conflict with Kaiju's already 2 copies. Pair them with here, you've got 3 of them, which is crazy. So that's been my favorite way to pair, is doubling up on a card.
That makes sense. Yeah, and the partners I have listed here, these are all partners that I have tried myself personally, and they can do some pretty crazy things. All-Stars World Champs, you're doubling down on the unique card aspect. You've got 40 unique cards in this deck, but All-Stars just have so many more opportunities to play extra cards that World Champs really appreciate. They've got Puck, they've got, and we'll get to this when we talk about All-Stars, but All-Stars have a sequence they can do where they play some combination of Non-Infinite Loop, Ghostly Arrival, and It's Astounding. And you can basically cheat out 3 Ghostly Arrivals in the same turn and still have an extra action play to take advantage of. And World Champs love that. Lots of factions love that, to be fair. But World Champs really enjoy being able to play 3 minions and then play one of their power boosting actions on top of that.
Yeah.
Anansi Tails and Itty Critters are both on here because at one point during testing, Anansi and Critter Champ were both considered to be the boss minion. Now, it ultimately went to Sheriff, but with Anansi and Critter Champ in the deck, they were considered too strong as leaders because they can pull out any card. Anansi could grab any standard action, Critter Champ could grab any minion power 2 or less. There's a whole lot they can do that really cut down on the inconsistency. And ultimately, that's what World Champs really need, in my experience, is they just need a little more of a push towards consistency, and they can do quite a bit of stuff. That's why Wizards are on here. Wizards World Champs is very scary because you got way more draw, you got way more plays, and if you keep Archmage out for longer than a turn or 2, you're going to be dropping power bombs everywhere.
And it's another reason you could pick them is just, if we were saying World Champs have a lot of cards that give power, if their partner doesn't have anything like that, and that's what the partner needs help with, it's another good option to pick World Champs.
Absolutely. Yeah, like Time Travelers, for example, who have lots of extra plays but no plus power. Time Box is great for World Champs. That's a way you can get Rainbow Girl out and use her ability in a meaningful way. You've also got Stoneford plus Time Walk in this combo, which can be nuts. You can replay Shield Maiden.
They can recur Stoneford.
Yeah, you can recur Stoneford. You can play Fast as Lightning over and over again. Lots of good options there. And then Wraith Wrestlers, this is maybe a darker horse pick than some of these others we've talked about. But I mean, like we've already mentioned Ellen, one of the best minions in the game because of just the crazy extra action plays she can pull off. You have the Wraiths themselves that raise the breakpoint, and then ways to destroy them so that World Champs can buy time to draw on to what they need and then do their big play with the breakpoint at a reasonable level. Just some very interesting things there. You've got Watson to cut down on your draw order issues because he can just grab Wraiths right out of the deck. It's one that I like a lot. And if, again, you need to line up some stuff correctly for it to fire off, but when it does, it's very satisfying.
I wonder if it feels good to give away a Wraith with Akie the Turtle, since the opponents won't be destroying it if they wanted to play it.
Right, and that's the trick, is having a Kaie in the deck. More or less, what I usually give away with him is either going to be Calicoin, in most cases, one of the weaker actions I've probably given away before. Kaie the Turtle is a great card. He's weird in this context because there's no way necessarily to get what you've given away back. What I usually do is, if I'm not giving away Calicoin, I'll steal a card with Shield Maiden and then give that back to them, Akaye. As far as counters go, again, dragons are on the list and tricksters because they just make it hard to play on bases. And when all you've got is plus power and no other defense aside from that, dragons and tricksters can just pick you apart. Super spies, again, secret agent, ripping cards out of your hand. With 20 unique cards, the random discards hurt even more in a lot of cases. Now, say you discard Calicoin, and that's no big deal. Or Mummy, or Samurai-chan, but some of these other discards, say you discard one of the cards that we've got listed here in the columns, that's going to hurt a whole lot. And then orcs, they cut down on your hand size. And when you try to hold on to the exact right cards that you need, that hurts. They cut down on specials, so Sheriff can't fire off, I don't believe, with and stay down the way it's worded now. Well, number 93 at the very tip top of C tier is the Changer Bots. So talk to me about Changer Bots, Sonus.
Changer Bots surprisingly do pretty decent when they're picked in tournament. They're pretty popular to pick, and they do have some strong cards. What seems to be happening is some of their abilities stopped being totally miraculous, I guess, as time went on. Like Bruiser, for example, is good, but in the end, it's the 3-power slot that becomes a 5-power. So it's like, that's not so unheard of anymore, 3-power slot becoming 5. So now its main advantage is it's a low power, so you can play it easier with cards. And then with Destruction being strong, it's decently safe, but its total power output has stopped feeling so amazing.
And it's not even 5. It's a 2 that becomes a 4.
Oh, that's right. It's even just 4. I was totally misremembering.
Yeah, which if you're playing werewolves is great. You can do some very silly things with Bruiser and werewolves with the Great Wolf Spirit. But yeah, otherwise, a 2 that becomes a 4 is...
Or a 3 that becomes a 4. Think of it like that. Like, since it's the 3-power slot,
right.
If that's all, that's basically Ronin, but had a condition, but
yeah,
it's just not that great. So its strength lies in being low power and protected to get out, but its actual total output goes down. And then the negative on Huffy, that's another place where you start feeling all these like total lower outputs. Huffy becomes a 2 if you moved it. Solar Shout becomes a 2 if you try to use an extra action. CCM Armor is only +2. These little not such amazing numbers started to add up over time is what seems to happen. And then add on no draw, no extra plays. So even their amazing cards, you have to hope you get them at the right time.
Right. And even a card that looks cool initially, like the Matrix of Bossiness, which turns any minion into a printed power 5. I mean, on average, that ends up being your average +2 or +3 power boost.
Which isn't
really
spectacular, really.
No, it's not. Leader 2 is good because he can be as much as an 8 drop if you've got another minion on the base, and he's already above average power otherwise. So some of their movement cards are interesting, but their movement is so contrived with passengers. It's like you play this on a minion, and if another minion moves, passengers can follow it, but it does it as a granted talent, which is even stranger.
4 Murgicon's not impressive.
Yeah, Murgicon is... He is the most... Bandit would say that he is a drink coaster titan. He's a flat +3, and sometimes that's nice. A flat +3 power. I mean, it's power. Can't argue with that necessarily.
It can definitely matter since it gives you the power there. So you originally can meet its condition, then maybe it was like a Huffy and something, and you move those off. Now Murgicon's just power for you for like a second place, or if you use its own talent. But its own talent is so slow, it either ends up they score the base it moved to, or they clash it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Its talent to move takes away its power, so you can't even use it to clash out another Titan consistently, because it moves, it immediately becomes weaker, and chances are you move it to a base where a Kraken has just been played after the base scores, and Kraken's going to win that clash just because it was there first.
Yeah. And change into a gun, it's nice to destroy a 4 or less, but now I have -2. I can't follow up well the same turn. And my minion can be destroyed easier.
Yeah. Changer Bots, Ludicrousness would say, they do what they say on the tin. They're not very sophisticated.
Yeah. You can get some high roll games with them if you get the touch at the right time. If you get Leader 2 at the right time, if Solar Shout can sit somewhere, but you have to get him at the right time, and they're not helping you get him at the right time at all with no draw.
Right. Yeah. Just the amount of work they have to put into to break a base with all of their abilities, unless you're just flat playing them on a base for their power, or you're playing Bruiser and using his ability to give him more power. Any amount of setup that you do, you're just going to have to do more because trying to consolidate them all onto a base takes away power. Their before scoring special.
Change up and roll on, yeah.
Change up and roll on, yes, thank you. That's a good card, but when you just got big guys sitting around, it's hard to use well. You have to be very intentional with it, which I think is fair. It's got a strong upside, but also you move your cards and it takes 1 power away from each of them. So you're again even more effort to try and swing a base.
It probably sounded kind of pessimistic for the faction that's at the top of this tier. I think of the answer to why they're that high is actually they're pretty decent to partner for. Partners getting them to the right cards, or a partner can use bruisers well, or doubling up on talents, or any of that stuff. They actually have good partnering, which to me at least is why they'd be here at the top.
I agree. Yeah, for these factions right here on the cusp of the tiers are the ones that received a lot of attention as far as like, should Changerbots be B tier? Should they be C tier? And ultimately we went with C. Just because there are so many inconsistencies and kind of self-destructive qualities that they have about them can make them difficult to wield easily. But yeah, well, again, to kind of just recap everything we've said about all the factions in C tier, you pair them with the right partner, and they can go crazy. you can do all sorts of stuff with the right setup and the right partner.
It's just they kind of need that is the problem.
Yeah. The overarching theme I want our viewers to take away from C tier is it's all about knowing when to pick them.
Yeah.
You can't just throw Changerbots into any given match and expect it to easily go your way.
One thing they have that might be starting to break the mold with the rest in this tier is they do have more versatility. You're getting quite a few things picking them. Like Bruiser is a safe drop. It can't be destroyed. It's going to give you a body with a low footprint to either build off of next turn or score with yourself, or second place, extra actions, destruction, protection, movement. So they're actually a pretty good general pick, which I think is what helped find them get picked as often as they have been in a tournament, where it's like, I don't feel like I'm putting myself in a corner when I picked them. I just have to make up for some weaknesses on power and draw.
Right. As far as partners go, to kind of help with that, you got Cyborg Apes. In our previous video, I mentioned like the top 3 factions that focused on minion modifiers, and I completely neglected to mention Cyborg Apes. So they're probably up there right between Fairies and Nightmare, if not there at the top, with their emphasis on minion modifiers. And Changerbots have a deceptive number of minion modifiers. You don't think of them, I don't think of them, I should say, when I think of factions that have a lot of minion modifiers to mess around with. But Changerbots have several. And Cyborg Apes love more minion modifiers. They love Solar Shout, you can camp him on a base and just play extra actions on your baboons and get very big.
The touch is basically a better Cyber Evolution, mostly because it doesn't add footprint if you're trying to just set up. You can put the touch down first. No extra power's been added, but it's a modifier. But again, there's 2 of the touch, there's 2 Cyber Evolutions, so that's 4 actions that give +3 each, which is a lot.
Yes, absolutely. Lots of fun options there. I think Apes have to lead the charge on that for the most part. Changerbots have to kind of take a back seat and play more support, but absolutely that combo can work. Penguins and Extramorphs are both on this list because, kind of like with Mounties, Changerbots minions are good to play pretty much any time. There's no wrong time to play a Changerbots minion because they've all got talents, and therefore you can't like miss time and on playability. You can play a minion, and if it's a Changerbot minion, it's fine. You know, if it's Huffy, you can move it off and reposition it later, or Bruiser, you've got a free Bruiser out now. It can make himself more powerful later. So just very, very, very safe.
And the Penguin Titan recursion's good within Changerbots, since Bruiser's a 2 or less.
Absolutely, and that's a combo where the Titans trade well, because Mergicon can come in on the turn that you plan to break the base with +3 power, and then he leaves. And then you can bring Emperor Penguin in and recur all your minions that you just used. Killer Plants are on here because Bruiser and Huffy both are decent sprout targets.
Yeah, or Venus Mantrap.
Yeah, Venus Mantrap can grab Bruiser, which is the 3 power minion normally. So that's a 9 power drop just if you grab 1. Interesting options there. Werewolves are on here. For those of you who remember March Smashness 2020, Changerbot Werewolves did some crazy things because, what was it? Bruiser with the touch and Great Wolf Spirit in play. Just you play. Yeah, Great Wolf Spirit's already in play. You play Bruiser, you play the touch. If Bruiser uses his own talent twice, and then you play the touch and use its talent twice. And then you use Great Wolf Spirit's talent to give a minion their +1 power twice.
14.
Yeah, 14 power. 2 to 14 power, all with just your regular minion, your regular action play. That's insane. That's almost as good as King Rex and Rampage, which is also 14 base damage with your regular minion and action play. It just doesn't require a Titan.
It's a really strong combo that lives and dies by basically winning before you, like by the time your deck runs out, because they don't have any recursion. So you have to use everything at the right time, but it's very strong.
Yes. As far as counters go, I put Bear Cavalry on here again just because Bruiser is hard to destroy. Cesium Armor protects a little bit, but Huffy makes itself weaker when
Shuts
it moves.
it down, yeah.
And Cub Scouts love that.
And might work against their special.
Yeah, absolutely. Change up, whatever it's called. Roll on, you know. You're making yourself weaker, more likely to be ate by a Cub Scout. And even say you have a Bruiser and it can't be destroyed. Well, Bear Cavalry can still push it around anyway. They love big minions to push around with some of their actions, because they still get benefits from pushing minions around. Luchadors are on this list because, again, you've got big minions that Luchadors can just pin down and then steal with reversal. Polynesian Voyagers are on here, again, because of Moai. Really locks down all of their movement options. Changerbots do have a way to deal with Moai, more so than other factions we've talked about so far. They do have Change into a Gun, which is a very powerful destruction option. That takes care of 2 of the Moai. That still leaves 2 more that you got to deal with. Sheep are on here, again, because of Bo Peep, locking down movement. Sheep minions moving every which way also makes it difficult when Changerbots are also working against their own minus power, in my opinion. Having a black sheep move off the base you're trying to score, or have flocks follow your minion that moves, and then all of a sudden the sheep player has more power there than you do because you've lost power from moving. Very, very difficult kind of formulate a plan.
Yeah. One thing Changerbots has in that is I'm not sure there's an amazing Hello Dolly copy, at least.
That's true, because all their actions are so unremarkable. Change up and roll on, maybe. Teddy bears are on here. I probably put them on this list because of Bear Picnic, which locks down bruisers to 1 base.
Cuddle, too.
Yeah, Cuddle is super brutal against Changerbots, because then you've deactivated all their abilities. And I guess, for Huffy it doesn't matter, because she's above par. She's 3 power. So you take her power away, and it's like, okay, well, I've got a 3 power minion. Same for Leader 6, or Leader 2, who has 6 power. But then you've got to deal with Love Overload, who can wipe out those bigger minions. And unless you're a 2 power Bruiser or have Cesium Armor, Love Overload can be very brutal. Alright, so that's it as far as our C-tier factions go. Do you have any final thoughts about any of these factions or C-tier in general before we move on our next video to the B-tier?
Yeah, I think just overall C-tiers just suffered from consistency issues within the factions or versatility issues. One of the two or both, which, great thing about Smash Up, you can partner your way out of that sometimes.
Yes, for sure.
That's kind of what's made them C-tier. And C-tier also tends to hold a handful of, it's mostly good at countering stuff.
Yes, for sure. All right, well, we have been talking for about an hour and a half by my watch, so this will be more than enough content for this video. So we'll go ahead and call it a wrap. Thank you for your time, Sonus, and I'll talk to you later.